It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I love the start of a new week. Fresh starts, fresh attitudes. The kids are excited for a Monday morning, back to school. Hello.
Whose house are you in? Clearly you did not wake up in our house.
Trying to put a positive vibe on things, okay? This is Dr. Justin Coulson here with my wife, mum to our 6 kids, the ever-optimistic, constantly positive Miss Happy Families. All right, Kylie, this time last week.
Hello.
What have I done? Oh, sorry.
I was going to start.
Okay, you start.
I was going to start today.
Okay, this is what it's like, folks. Like, seriously, this is what I live with. Just be flexible. Just go with it.
Last week, we asked everybody to share with us their worst parenting advice. And they really came to the party with it, didn't they?
Yeah,
there was some really just devastating advice that people have given.
Pretty disconcerting. That's how it felt. Really disconcerting.
But I'm really grateful to say that today we have asked everybody to share their best parenting advice, and the list looks a lot better.
So Adam Grant, who has the podcast Rethinking, regularly asks his guests what the worst advice they've ever received is. Never heard him ask what's the best advice. I think we're one-upping the great Adam Grant today.
You're hearing it first on Happy Families.
I love it. We received some voice memos.
Hi, it's Sarah from the Illawarra. The best advice I ever got is from a dear friend whose kids were older than ours, and he said to us, connect with your kids every day in a way that's meaningful for them. And that was the best advice. Got us through some really tough times, and I have a really great relationship with my kids now because of it. Thanks, Jonathan. You know who you are.
My name is Hayley and I'm from Kerrang. I got this piece of advice from a maternal child health nurse, and it's this: be in the moment, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Just be in that moment. In a good one, when the baby has slept through the night and you're feeling great, don't look ahead. Just celebrate that moment and enjoy that moment.
Rhiannon shared, high emotions equals low intelligence. I think I've heard that somewhere before.
I've heard that somewhere before as well. That sounds like something I might have said once or twice.
Not only does it apply to my kids, but to myself and my husband as well, and it 100% makes sense. Each time I'm facing a challenging moment with my boys, I remember this: take a breath and wait for the train to make its way through the tunnel before trying to fix anything.
I think I'm going to get a big head if we have more comments like that. It's almost like somebody's just teaching my parenting seminar to me. Some really nice insights, though, from Lisa Kay, who said, listen to what you know is true for your kids. Be the parent they need, not the parent you want to be. Oh, how good is that? Be the parent they need, not the parent you want to be. And understand that this might be different for each child.
So true. Kimberly said, get to know your child, each of them uniquely individual, then go with your gut. Knowing each of my children well generally means I know when to let them figure stuff out and when I need to fight for them. It helps me figure out what's going on when few words are spoken.
So the underlying theme here very much is it's about time with your kids. Like, you can't get to know them unless you're spending time with them. That's how relationships are built. TIME. It's all about that connection. Really, really nice stuff. I'm going to share the next couple. They both come down to this idea that I talk about a lot in terms of supporting our kids' autonomy. First one from Vanessa in Sydney. I just love this. Vanessa in Sydney said, are you ready? This might be the best advice I've ever heard. If they're cold, they will put a jumper on. Isn't that great? I grew up in a home where I was constantly told, it's cold, you need to put a jumper on. And I would be saying to my mum, but I'm not cold. And she'd say, that's ridiculous. Stop being silly. It's freezing. Put a jumper on. But I wasn't cold. And if I was cold, I would have put a jumper on.
Well, in our house, they are cold, but I don't want to turn the air conditioning off. So I am telling them to put a jumper on all the time.
And Samantha said, this is some advice from the author John Holt. If I had to make a general rule for living and working with children, it might be this. Be wary of saying or doing anything to a child that you would not do to another adult whose good opinion and affection you valued.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. I particularly loved the advice emphasising the importance of ensuring your children know that they're loved unconditionally.
This is my big one, right? I love this.
Jessica said, my best advice I give all the time and live by: when hugging your child, never let go first.
Oh, my goodness, my heart, my heart, my heart.
Aliski said, when they are hardest to love them harder. Sit down and read a book together or just cuddle.
Yeah, I often say when your children are the least deserving is when they need it the most. Not that they're ever not deserving of love, but sometimes you don't really want to give it to them. But can I just go back to Jessica for a sec? When hugging your child, never let go first. I love how practical that is. I want to go and try that now. Like, just finish the podcast and go and hug one of the kids and just keep hugging until they let go. How good is that? I think I should do that with you as well. Might never get anything done.
Lisa said, kids' behaviour is rarely what it seems. Anger, disrespect, non-compliance, etc. requires a parent to put away their own anger and to sit with a child and ask the right questions.
Yeah, nice stuff. And a couple of quotes here. One from Jules, who's quoting Ross Green. Kids do well if they can. That's from his Explosive Child. We had Ross on the podcast about a year ago, one of the most popular podcast episodes we've ever done. Kids do well if they can. They're not naughty, manipulative, or intentional in their challenges. They're not giving us a hard time. They're having a hard time. Ross might be one of the nicest humans I've ever spoken to. Such a great guy.
Christy shared her advice from Ella Nost, who said, discipline is helping a child solve a problem. Punishment is making a child suffer for having a problem. To raise problem solvers, focus on solutions, not retribution.
El Arnost is sublime, writes so many great things. I have often said something similar. I didn't realise how close I was to what she was saying, but I'll regularly say really good discipline's not really about anything except helping kids to figure out solutions to problems. Challenging behaviour, difficulty with a sibling, problems with too much screen time, not going to bed, not liking food. Great discipline is about helping kids solve problems, and El Arnost has been much more pithy and effective at saying that than me.
Marie from Suffolk, England said that the way you talk to your child becomes their inner voice.
Yeah, I love that Marie is in Suffolk in England, and the next piece of advice came from Mary in Louisiana, who got some advice from Trudy, her friend.
A child can repeat word for word what you thought they haven't heard.
And that happens so often. What is it about? Did you used to love listening to your parents' conversations when you were a kid? Did you sort of sneak into the room and just try to listen to everything that they were talking about, especially when they had friends over?
We have a house full of them. Ella will regularly say to me, Mum, you're talking too quietly. I can't listen in.
Yes, that's right. I love these kids.
I'm talking so quiet because I know you're trying to listen in.
All right, we need to wrap this up. Here's a couple more pieces of advice that came through from Facebook. We really appreciate you jumping on. We had hundreds of comments once again. I love the way that you interact with us on Facebook. We would love more voice memos, by the way. Please feel free to send those voice memos through. Sophie said, breathe and don't take it personally. When I remove myself from the back chat, the defense, the rudeness from the kids, I do a much better job. I love that because so often it's just not really about you.
I've got a couple more to go through. Sarah from Adelaide said, for all those noisy, buzzy, loud and obnoxious toys that don't have an adjustable volume button, a piece of clear sticky tape over the speaker is a game changer.
That's great parenting advice that I never knew I needed. Never knew I needed that, but that is brilliant. The other thing is just don't replace the batteries. I mean, that works a treat, although the kids often get upset about that. The wonderful Mim Hammonds from Wollongong said one of the best parenting tips I've ever been given, possibly from you, Dr. J. When your child asks for something at the shop, don't just dismiss their desire and straight out say no. Admire what they're admiring. Have a little conversation about what's so cool about the toy and then say, not today, but I'll take a photo of it so that we remember that you loved it. It hasn't yet failed to work. No meltdowns. The child walks away from the toy or the lolly happy, knowing they were listened to. You've made a moment of connection, set a boundary, and avoided big feelings, all in a matter of minutes. 99% of the time, the item is never mentioned again.
She also just said, hide the fancy ice creams in an empty bag of mixed frozen veggies. Your children, and possibly husband too, will be none the wiser of their existence.
That's genius.
That is genius.
That is genius. I want to pick up on what Mim said, though, about that whole giving them in fantasy what they can't have in reality. Living into that moment with them and saying, I get it. Wouldn't it be great if you could? Let's take a photo of it. Let's imagine. I got an email just the other day from a guy who was in one of my parenting presentations. Unfortunately, I didn't get his name. My team passed this along, but here's what he said. He was messaging about this giving them in fantasy what they can't have in reality technique. I'd been talking about it in this presentation. He sends me an email. He says, the technique is great, by the way. I used it the next day when my daughter, 4 years old, wanted a dress that she saw in a store that we were only going into for one item. I used the technique, wouldn't it be great to have all the dresses? Don't you wish you could? And so on. I used it maybe 2 or 3 more times that day. He said the funny part is the next day we were seated on the sofa together, having just got home from somewhere. My wife yells out from the kitchen asking me to clean something up. Can't remember specifically, hence why she was reminding me. I quietly say, I don't feel like cleaning. My daughter turns to me and has this grin and goes, wouldn't it be great if the house could clean itself? At first, he says, I didn't catch on. I was like, yeah, that would be. And we both added more details of the self-cleaning house while going back and forth with this conversation with my daughter. I was standing and cleaning while she sat there on the sofa. I realised moments later that my 4-year-old daughter is going to be a criminal mastermind. It works on dads too. Great parenting advice. It was mine. I'll take credit for it. I'm so glad that it's been helpful, Mim, and I'm so glad that it helped that dad as well.
And our lucky last, Valerie, she says, wipe the Weet-Bix up when it's wet and the rice when it's dry.
Great parenting advice. All right, we need to wrap this up, Kylie. I want to wrap this up with your very best ever parenting advice, the best advice you've ever heard being given around raising kids. I'm going to share mine as well. Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, what's the best parenting advice you've ever heard? And it doesn't have to have been from me, but if it's not, I'll be sad.
I don't think it was from you.
Mom, my heart just exploded a little bit earlier because of that beautiful...
But I wish I had lived it so much earlier in my parenting journey. It was just that I needed to trust myself and my ability to meet my children's needs. For so long, I second-guessed myself in everything and really, really struggled to know whether or not I was doing the right thing, I was feeding them enough, I was changing their nappies the right way. And it was just, it's taken a lot of children to get to that place where I have learnt to be comfortable with knowing that deep down at grassroots, I actually do know what my kids need. Sometimes it takes talking to the right person to draw the information out, but I do know it. And as I've leaned into that specifically with the kids now that they're at home, I'm really seeing some beautiful things happen between them.
The idea of trusting in the organismic development of the child. I know I used a big word there, but there's some really great research around that, and it seems to be one of the best predictors of great outcomes with kids. I love that you said that. Mine, well, I can't help myself. I have to go with 2. I'm sorry. One of them, 3 words, force creates resistance. My mum used to say it when I was growing up, and I don't think that she ever really was able to implement it effectively in her own life. Maybe that's why she said it so often. But that has been at the very forefront of so much of the research that I've done and so much of what I teach today, and it's changed the way that we raise our kids. Force creates resistance. It's profoundly good parenting advice. But the one that I have to finish on is trite. It's not mine. I read it way back, and it's always stuck with me, and that was, to a child, love is spelled T-I-M-E. Thanks so much for the very best advice you shared with us. I really like the idea that we should hide our ice creams in the mixed veggies bag. Thank you, Mim. And I really like the idea of when you're hugging your child, you should never be the first one to let go. Thank you, Jess, for that one. Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families on Facebook. If you'd like to see the entire thread of all of the very best parenting advice, you could write a book about it. There's so much there. The Happy Families podcast is produced, as always, by the wonderful and patient Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our ideas guy. He's our executive producer. For more information about how to make your family happier and to join us on the quest to make your family happier step by step with us holding your hand all the way along the way, a very clearly organised and structured program to help you get there and make your family flourish. Join the waiting list for the quest now at happyfamilies.com.au.